D&D sessions in the horror genre are always a weird balancing act, because in most cases the party can just absolutely destroy anything they come across, so it's hard to actually make them afraid of something. However, sometimes with enough setup and atmosphere you can make a quest that ends up becoming legendary among your group, and today's story is about one such adventure, the False Hydra. First off, if you are currently playing in a game where any of these things are happening, then please immediately stop watching the video, or you may end up spoiling one of the coolest D&D monsters of all time. These things include random health potions appearing on or inside of dead bodies, every single tavern room you stay at having an extra bed, NPCs frequently referring to your group as one person larger than it is, and enemies randomly becoming more damaged during combats for no discernible reason. Has everyone who has seen any of those things in their games left? Okay, cool. On to the actual story. Our story starts on a cold, dark night, as the party was arriving at a small farming village on the edge of society. They'd recently gotten a letter from an old friend that was mostly just detailing how his new life here as a farmer was going well. Except in the middle of one of the sentences it had the words, "Help me for the love of Palor, help me," scrawled hastily. As the party rode into town, they noticed a man in ragged clothes with unkempt hair standing in a dark alley, using charcoal to write the words, "Look up," on the wall of an old abandoned warehouse. "Sir, what exactly do you mean by look up? For all I see when I gaze upwards is the beautiful starry night, and if all that you wish us to see is the beauty of nature, then I thank you for that. However, this seems like an odd way of going about that." The man didn't seem to hear the players, or at least he didn't acknowledge whether he did, and so the party quickly moved on, traveling towards the only tavern in the town. However, they were interrupted when they heard the familiar voice of their friend Baruch. "Peter, is that you? Thank our Rathis you're here." He proceeded to tell the party about a group of criminals known as the Westbound Imperium that had arrived in town and how he believed that they were planning something. Baruch had a friend who was an alchemist who was setting up an ambush against the criminals tomorrow evening, and he wanted the party to help. But the party had a few questions about the town before they left for the tavern. "Baruch, do you by any chance know what that castle-looking structure on the hill overlooking the town is?" "Of course, that's the Lord's Manor." "Yes, but what is the Lord's name?" "Oh, we've never had a lord here, it's just called that." "Well then who lives there?" "Nobody lives there, it's just been there as long as we can all remember." "Baruch, are you feeling okay? Cause your letter felt a bit off." "What do you mean by that?" Peter began to get out the letter while he was talking. "In your letter you had suddenly written, 'It's gone.' The message is fucking gone." "What do you mean by, 'it's gone'?" "I mean that the part about how he needs help, it's gone. It's not in the letter anymore. It's just disappeared." Eventually the conversation ended and the party went to the Frozen Bear Tavern, a quaint little building that was run by the nicest couple ever, Mr. and Mrs. Elphira. "Oh, you six look cold. You can have your room for the night on the house. And don't forget there's a complimentary breakfast in the morning." "You said the 6 of us, don't you mean 5? "Oh, of course, my apologies." The party then walked up to their rooms and went to sleep, ready to fight the Westbound Imperium tomorrow. However, when they woke up, Garan the Hobgoblin Paladin felt a slight pain on his chest, and upon looking he noticed that there were words faintly and crudely scratched into his stomach that read, "Why do you ignore it?" He then noticed that there was dead skin underneath the fingernails of his left hand. "Wait, did I write this message to myself? I don't remember doing that." "I think that it's whatever it is that's in this town. It's some form of mind control and I think it's taking over the other people in the village." "Wait, is this thing going to take over my mind?" "I think that we should leave as soon as we finish dealing with the Westbound Imperium. I don't like the idea of staying here any longer than we need to." "While Baruch did give us this job, I don't think it's why he asked us here. It's nice for the money, but I'm staying to save my friend." Eventually the party went out to the warehouse where the ambush was happening, and they managed to kill all 4 of the targets. However, something strange was happening during the combat. They'd randomly have health potions appearing. Like they'd cut open an elf and suddenly a health potion would fall out, and this had been happening for most of the campaign so far. However, the party didn't think much of it, and so they went back to the tavern to celebrate their victory with a night of drinking and card games, before eventually they went to sleep. In the morning, a few things happened. First off, for almost every single day of the campaign so far, when the players woke up, they'd get a bardic inspiration die that they could use anytime during the day. Except today they didn't get one. The second thing they noticed is that there was a 6th backpack in the room, at the foot of the empty bed. Inside the backpack was adventuring gear as well as a book, and the cover of the book read The Journal of Marlon Dietrichs, which just so happened to be the same last name as one of the party members, Peter Dietrichs. The journal itself talked about how Marlon was a bard who'd been traveling with the party for the past few months, and not just traveling with them, but talking to them and healing them in combat. She even talked about how Peter was her brother, except the thing is that Peter was an only child. He didn't have any siblings. Nearing the last page of the journal, it suddenly says, "It ate him in front of me, but I did not see that it ate him." The final journal entry, which was dated the very night before this morning, told that she was going for a walk outside to clear her head after the night with the Westbound Imperium earlier in the day. The only problem with all of this is that nobody in the party remembers this person ever being with them, and they'd never even heard her name before this. "Peter, I didn't know you had a sister." "I don't." "Garan, I believe it's a ghost or something that's been following us around." Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. "Oh no, she's back! Everyone hide!" It turns out that it was Oscorus the alchemist at the door, and he told the party that the Westbound Imperium had sent more people to the town, and that this time they brought an alchemist fire nuke with them. In their haste to deal with the criminals, the party didn't seem to notice that Mr. Ilfura was nowhere to be seen in the tavern the entire day. The party spent most of the day fighting the Westbound Imperium, and they managed to come out on top. But they were too exhausted afterward to do much investigating into the strange events that were going on, and so they went back to the tavern and slept. That night, the party decided to set up watches because they were paranoid about whatever it was that was happening. Towards the end of the night, Guppy the Oozian Rogue was on watch and heard a faint scratching sound coming from the corner of the room. When he looked over, he saw Garan's left hand moving on its own, scratching a message onto his chest. Guppy walked over to the message and saw that it read, "It's watching you right now. The window." "I look out the window." "It's too fogged up for you to be able to see outside." "I run down the stairs, out the door, and look up at the window. Do I see anything?" "No, you don't seem to notice anything outside the window." "Wait, is our window the only one that's foggy?" "Yes." After this, the party decided to go to Baruch's house to get their payment, and when they arrived, they noticed that the mailbox outside it read Mr. and Mrs. Kelfarin. "Baruch, I didn't know you got married, congratulations." "What are you talking about? I'm not married." "But it says Mr. and Mrs. Kelfarin on the mailbox outside." "No it doesn't, are you sure you're alright, Peter?" "Alright, this is really sketchy, I'm going to cast Calm Emotions on him." As soon as the spell was cast, Baruch's eyes went wide and he began freaking out, repeating the words, "It ate her, it ate her, it ate her," repeatedly while tears began to pour out of his eyes. After the spell ended, he returned to normal as if nothing had happened. What the hell? Alright, I'm going outside with my journal and casting Calm Emotions on myself. After the spell ended, Peter saw that he'd written on the journal page in front of him, but he didn't remember writing any of it. The page read, "It's watching me, but I can't see it. Above the town. Silence." Peter ran back inside to the rest of the party and said, "Oscorus, I need you to run back to your laboratory and get as many bombs as possible. Meanwhile, we're going to the library to see if we can find out anything about this creature." "Sounds like a plan. I'll be here waiting for you with the bombs." When the party arrived at the library, they split up to look for clues. One half of the party went through census data for the village, and they found that the town does in fact have a lord, and that the census still says that he's alive. The other half of the party went through the section on folklore, where they eventually found a chapter in a book that's titled The False Hydra. The False Hydra is a creature that lurks beneath quaint little villages far from the rest of society, where it begins to eat the inhabitants of the town. Normally, people would notice this very quickly because of the missing people, however the False Hydra is able to entirely negate this by singing. Because, you see, while you can hear the False Hydra's song, you entirely forget about it and anyone it's killed. It could be watching you right this very moment, and you would have no way of knowing. However, there might be a small part of your brain that would notice, and would try to alert you to its presence with hastily scrawled notes while you're distracted. The party, now armed with all of this information, returned to Baruch's house ready to go fight the creature terrorizing this village. "Is Oscorus here waiting for us with the bombs?" "Who?" "Oscorus, the alchemist that we were with for the past few days." "What do you mean? There's never been an alchemist with you." "Oh." Then Peter cast silence on all of them. Suddenly, they realized that there was almost a constant faint noise that they were unaware of for the entirety of their time in the town. but now it's gone. They saw in the window outside Baruch's house an elongated, pale face with murky black pools of darkness where its eyes should be, and blood dripping out of its mouth as it stared at them. The ranger shot a lightning bolt at it and the face recoiled out of view. We run outside after it. As you run outside, you see multiple long, pale necks rising out of the Lord's manor up into the sky above you, each ending in a head similar to the one you saw before, and they're all staring down at the town below. The party knew what they had to do to purge the town of this menace, and they put wax into their ears and went down to the Lord's manor, where they found a massive amount of tunnels leading far down beneath the surface. They plunged forth down into the tunnels and eventually they found it. The False Hydra. It was surrounded by rotten meat and half-eaten corpses. It was an extremely tough fight, but in the end they managed to kill the monstrosity and saved the city. But then, while they were standing in this cavern of death, they realized that they recognized some of the corpses. One of them was Ozcorus, the halfling alchemist. One of them was Bimmy, the bear companion that had been with them since the 3rd session of the campaign. And finally, the last body was that of a bard. She looked extremely similar to Peter, and when they looted the body, they found a sending stone. I activate the sending stone and ask, "Who is this?" You hear a buzz in your backpack. Upon looking inside, you find the other half of the sending stone pair. They eventually emerged from the crumbling ruin of a manor house and left the village, as the saviors of a town that wouldn't remember what they'd even been saved from, and the party began to travel to their next destination, where they'd face an even more dangerous foe.